Hello, welcome to Hyper Workshops. This workshop is part two of a three-part series on the Hyper Data Service. So in the previous workshop, which will be linked in the description, was a simple Hello World workshop just to get you familiar with Hyper and Hyper Connect. In this workshop, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Hyper Connect. What is it? How does it work? And as well as implement three kind of features to our Mario API wiki. We're going to implement the update character endpoint. We'll implement the remove character endpoint, and we'll implement the list character endpoint, showing you a few more features of the Hyper Data Service. So let's go ahead and launch a workspace, and we'll open this in a new tab. And we're going to use Gitpod as our virtual machine. So in order to participate in this workshop, you should have a GitHub account, and you should have some knowledge on just JavaScript, JSON APIs, and Git or GitHub. And we'll open the repo up in Gitpod and kind of talk through HyperConnect. So the project we're working on in these workshops is a Mario Wiki, and it's just a JSON document store where we're storing Mario characters in JSON documents, and we're just doing some commands. In the Hello World, we did a create character and we did a get character. In this one, we'll do update, remove, and list. But before we do that, let's talk about HyperConnect. HyperConnect is a client module that you can embed in your project, either Node or Dino. It is ESM, so Node version 16 is required or above. And you import it as a dependency, and it basically allows you to take a Hyper Connect string and create a Hyper client, and then kind of specify how the calls you want by just doing hyper.service.action. So the connection string is very important. It looks like a URL, but it really has all of your kind of configuration parameters you need for the Hyper service in one line. So we can, basically add the config URL and then make a call. And out of those two pieces, we have everything we need to generate an HTTP request. For example, if we call await hyper.data.update, that's going to be a put, and it's going to build the path using the params, and the action is obviously update to put, and the service is data. And then the connect string gives us the information to build a token, which it takes the key and secret and adds the key as the subclaim to the JSON Web Token, and the secret is what's used to sign the JSON Web Token. And that allows HyperConnect to make a secure request on your client's response and get the information back. HyperConnect is available in Node. It also works in environments like Byte, with SvelteKit is a popular Byte build. And then it also works in environments like Dino. And you do not want to run this in the browser, again, because you're exposing some secrets. You always want to run this on the server side. So now that we've gone through that, what we need to do is create a .env file in our project and run some setups, and then add the connect string, and then run some setups. So with that, we're going to go into our Hyper dashboard. So we type dashboard.hyper.io and log in by clicking the GitHub button. Again, you have to have a GitHub account. So use our test account. And once it initializes, you may or may not have applications. If you did the hello world, you'll have an application. But what we're going to do is just kind of delete this application and kind of start from a clean slate just to make sure that everything is good. So we'll add an application and we'll just hit create. And then we'll open that application in our desktop and hover our mouse over this little copy document. Click that. You should see copied. That basically copied our connection string in our clipboard. And now we'll go into our Git pod. Let's continue with GitHub here. And I was thinking it was already spun up, but it shouldn't take too long. So we are using a Node.js environment, and I'll be using Yarn for my installer. You can use npm install, and we're using Visual Studio Code. I'll update the size of this so it's a little bit easier to read. And then we're going to go into the Connect folder. So I'm going to open an integrated terminal in the Connect folder, and then I'm going to type Yarn to kind of pull down all the packages. And then I'm just going to type echo hyper equals, and I'm going to paste that connection string into that line and use the greater than sign to create a .env file. Since this is Visual Studio Code, you could come up to connect and select new file and do .env, etc. But the gist is you want a .env file here with your hyper connection string. And once we have that, we are good to go. So what we want to do next is kind of run a setup, and the setup will just pre-populate some documents for us, and then we'll run start, which will start our Express server. So if we run yarn setup here, it's just calling the setup.js file using your hyper token and just creating 4 docs here for our Mario Wiki. We've got Mario and Luigi, Princess Peach, and Bowser. Extra credit for anyone who knows who Bowser is and what game that Bowser first appeared in. That would be kind of cool to know. Anyway, so we've got everything kind of set up. Let's go ahead and start our server. And what we'll do is go over here to our Remote Explorer and make our server public. And then we can kind of launch it here on the tab and see that we have a server. And also, if we do a API characters character -1, let's see, characters, a misspelled character, right? Okay, there we go. You can see that we are getting our characters on the API endpoints that we implemented in the previous workshop. So all that's working great. Now we do have a couple of other API methods to implement. We want to implement update, remove, and list. We'll start with update. And with update, we'll do just like we did in the previous workshop. We'll import connect from hyper connect, and then we'll set up hyper by calling connect, passing in the environment variable hyper, which is our connection string, and then instantiating that. And now we will get the result from an await and call hyper.data.update. Now, update takes 2 parameters. It takes a request.params.id, which will be part of the URL, and then a request.body, which is the document that we're updating. and then we'll just return the response like that. Okay, pretty cool. Um, Now, in order to test this, what we want to do is use a tool called Hopscotch, just because it's easier to view here in this workshop. But you could use curl as well. Hopscotch. What we want to do is go ahead and grab this URL and make sure that works. Cool. So to do an update, we need to do a put, and we need a JSON body, and we're going to add a description, Mario's brother, right? And if we do a put to API characters and the ID, passing the body, that's a type of application JSON, with the code we added, we should get an OK true. And we do. Yay. We have updated the character. If we want to do a get, we should see that we've added the description of Mario's brother. Very cool. Now, if we wanted to remove a character, so we can go to remove character and do the same thing. Import connect from hyper connect. Hyper equals connect process.environment hyper, and we instantiate that, and then we'll say result await, and you guessed it, hyper.data.remove, and then request.params.id, right? Pretty straightforward. And we'll provide result here. And now if we wanted to test that, we've got API characters -2. We will just call delete. We don't need to send a body. And with that, we hit send, and we get OK true. We successfully deleted character 2. Pretty cool. So that's 2 of the 3. The third one we want to implement is list. So if we go list characters, again, it's kind of the same process. Now, there's other ways you can manage this, but for right now, we're just trying to be very explicit. So we'll import hyperconnect, and then we'll get our connection string. And we're going to just get the result equals hyper, we need to await, hyper.data.list, like that. And then we'll return the result. And this is going to list all the documents in our database, right? So if we go to API characters and do a get, we remove character 2 and hit send. All right, we get 3 documents in our database because we deleted one. We can actually go ahead and post a character or put a character. So if we wanted to put that character back here, Luigi, we can just do put characters, character 2, send, OK, true. Now, if we go to our get characters, let's do get characters, send, and we've got all 4 of them back. Okay, pretty cool. Now, there's some parameters that we can add to the list characters because we may not want to return all of them back. We could just say, give us a limit of 2, and if we run that, we'll only get 2. Now, we're getting OK. We could also just return docs, which will just give us the array, be a little bit easier to read. Now, we can also say, give us specific keys. So let's say we wanted to get specific keys from the data store. So we could say keys and then just an array of key strings. So character -2 and character -4. So with that, if we run, now we should get 2 and 4. Pretty cool. We can also do ranges because list is a range query. So we could say start key equals character 2 and end key equals character 3. And that should just give us characters 2 and 3. 2 and 3. As we did a range. And there's a bunch of other things we can do with list. One of the things we may want to do is filter on type character. So we may have other types of documents in there. So again, you can just on small data sets leverage the filter command of an array, and you get the doc, and then you could say to filter it with a true or false. So if doc.type equals character, then we'll return it true, and then that'll keep it in the filter. So if we do that, and we do a list with a limit 25, right? Then when we run, we should, get our 4 character documents back. Cool. So that's really the workshop today. There's a couple of other examples on there to try and some other code. And again, with this workshop now, you should have walked through kind of the basic CRUD features of Hyper Data Service. And in the next workshop, we'll actually go into more advanced features because obviously you want to do some custom queries. You may want to upload some data in a batch, things like that. And we'll discuss that in the other workshop. So thanks. Hope you had a good day and talk to you soon.